Hello and welcome back to Everything NHL, the hockey segment of the Fantasy Fanatics Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan, and we're here with our hockey expert, James Kumar.
Hey, what's up, man?
So this week we're going to go over some games. We're going to recap, I guess, some games, and then we're going to go for some pickups, and then we'll talk about some news around the league, and then preview some more games, and then talk about the pool a little bit.
All right, sounds good. Let's hop into it.
All right, so I guess we can start with some games on March 31st, and we can start with the Leafs. I know you're happy about this one. The Leafs were able to beat the Jets 3-1.
Yeah,
Austin
100%.
Matthews, exactly. Austin Matthews and Zach Hyman got a goal in the first. Alexander Kerfoot, Josh Morrissey got a goal in the second. Um, so what are your thoughts on this game?
I watched most of this game. The Leafs played really solid. They just started off really quick in the first period. I think even they were saying that Zach Hyman had the same amount of shots as the entire Jets team did in the first period. So Leafs got off to a hot start, and then they pretty much didn't look back the rest of the game.
That's a really good win from Toronto. So congratulations to them.
Yeah, I mean, they stay first place in the North Division, 3 points now ahead of the same Winnipeg Jets. So yeah, Toronto is definitely staking their claim at that top spot.
Sounds good. And moving on, we have another really big win. Congratulations to the Buffalo Sabres. They were able to end their losing streak at 18 losses. This is officially their first win since 18 losses. And the Philadelphia Flyers were on the receiving end of, I guess, all their pent up frustration. The Sabres won 6-1. Sam Reinhart and Curtis Lazar scored 2 goals in the first, and Steven Fogarty and Kaysen Middlestat scored 2 goals in the second, and Brandon Montour scored 2 goals by himself. Well, not by himself, but in the third. And Ivan Provorov scored 1 goal for Philly in the second period. And what are your thoughts on Buffalo's win?
Yeah, it's very impressive. Another thing that's impressive is for a defenseman to have two shorthanded goals in one period. That's something I don't think I've seen before. So, congrats to Brandon Montour and the Buffalo Sabres on their win. Yeah, they played a solid game. As you know, Philly hasn't been the best this season. They've really slipped in the month of March. So I guess Philly's just pretty much happy that the month of March is done at this point.
Yeah, and I guess for Buffalo, I mean, this has been a very frustrating season for them. Nothing has been going right. But this is one thing that I guess they can be happy about. I maybe like their season's done, but might as well just go out with a bang, try to get as many wins as you can, and try to spoil some teams.
Yeah, I mean, their goalie Linus Olmark is back from injury, and surprisingly, he has a winning record this year. I mean, I wouldn't advise fantasy managers to go pick him up, but then at the same time, he has been decent for Buffalo. He might still finish with more losses at the end of the year just because it is the Buffalo Sabres. But yeah, congrats to the Sabres once again.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess going on to another blowout victory, Colorado Avalanche, they really lived up to their name against the Coyotes, and it was 9-3. 3 goals is normally a good score, but not against the Avalanche.
Yeah,
Um,
it was pretty much an avalanche of goals at this point.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, just in the first, there were a crazy amount of goals for Colorado. Jonas Donskoy, Andre Burakovsky, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, and that was Jonas just got 3 goals by himself, which is kind of crazy to think about. And Landskog got a goal in the second. Rantanen got a goal in the third. Landeskog got another goal in the third, and Burakovsky got another goal in the third. And for Arizona, Michael Bunting in the first, uh, Oliver Ekman Larson in the first, Connor Garland in the second. What are your thoughts on the Avalanche?
I mean, to score 5 goals in a span of 3 minutes and 30 seconds is pretty much insane. I've never seen that in my entire life. Watching hockey, this team just they just blew the doors off of Arizona. They chased goalie Aiden Hill like pretty much like 5 minutes into the first period. They chased him out of the net, so it was insane. Jonas Donskoy, like you said, he had a hat trick. This whole team played really well. Definitely, there were some other things that happened in this game, fights and so on, that we'll get into later. But yeah, just overall, the Avalanche just showed that they're a pretty dominant team this year.
Especially their offense. I mean, we talked about them versus the Wild, and even the goalies on the Wild couldn't keep up with the Avalanche. So I guess we might see some more blowouts by Colorado.
Basically, I know that they had trouble scoring at the beginning of the year. They were still getting wins, but I feel like that they've pretty much reached their full potential, and they're definitely going to be, I don't know, maybe even a Stanley Cup contender in my mind. If they can get like the solid goaltending in the playoffs, like I know Grubauer's been good this year, but if he can perform in the playoffs, this team definitely has a good chance of winning the cup this year.
It looks like it. I don't know how anybody's going to stop their offense.
When you're pretty much getting close to 50 shots every game, like goalies don't even have a chance. And they're like quality shot attempts. It's not like they're just dumping the puck in from the outside. Like they're really getting like quality shots. Like, why do you think all of these goals just started going in? Because they were getting good shots off. That's all I can say.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, this is looks like a Stanley Cup contender right now.
Yeah, they're really solid. And I think for Arizona, they had been playing well going into that game. So I feel like this is just a one off. I don't think that this really defines Arizona as a team, but I think they are really missing their starting goalie, Darcy Kemper. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, three goals isn't a bad score. It's just that you were facing Colorado, so there's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, I mean, like their offense hasn't been that bad. It's just their defense looked really shaky as well as their goaltending. So definitely, if Kemper comes back from injury, they'll definitely have a decent shot at getting back into a playoff race.
Yeah. And I guess speaking of playoff race, the Golden Knights fell to the Los Angeles Kings. The Kings were able to get 4 goals on the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights only had 2. Andreas Athanasio and Elias Anderson got 2 goals in the first. Jarrett Anderson Dolan and Alex Iafallo got 2 goals in the second. And for the Golden Knights, William Karlsson got a goal in the second, and Shea Theodore got a goal in the third. Um, this is a very surprising upset for the Kings. And do you think this kind of affects the Golden Knights, or are they still solidly the best team in the West?
Best team in the West. I don't know about that anymore, considering how good Colorado has been. Second best team in the West, yeah, definitely still. They have their second goalie, Robin Lehner, back from injury, so they have two solid goalies in net. And they have a pretty overall solid team. So I feel like that this game, the Kings really came out and made a statement like they wanted to win, and their goalie Calvin Peterson made 40 saves. So I know Vegas usually applies a lot of pressure, and it looks like they were able to withstand all that pressure.
I mean, it's a good sign when you can withstand pressure from a team like Vegas. So, what do you think of Los Angeles going forward?
I mean, they do have a chance of getting into the playoffs, but I feel like once St. Louis gets all their injured players back, I feel like that they'll solidify that fourth spot. So I think it's going to be hard for teams like Arizona and LA and San Jose to try and get into that fourth spot in the West. I feel like that once St. Louis is healthy, they'll lock it up.
Yeah. So I guess this is pretty much their opportunity to try to get as many wins as they can to kind of weather that storm.
Oh yeah, for sure. Most definitely.
And I guess talking about another team in the West, the San Jose Sharks were able to beat the Minnesota Wild 4-2. Rudolph Balcers and Ryan Donato got 2 goals in the second. Nikolai Nitsov got a goal in the third. and Evander Kane got a goal in the third. Um, for the Minnesota Wild, Kirill Kaprizov got a goal in the third, and Matt Zuccarello got a goal in the third as well. And what do you think of San Jose?
I mean, this was very surprising to me. I know they won the previous game in a shootout. I thought Minnesota would come and bounce back in this game and sort of turn things around, but it looks like the Sharks have been playing really well. Goalie Martin Jones, really solid back-to-back wins against Minnesota. Once it got to a shootout, I had a feeling the Sharks were going to win just because of Martin Jones being so good in the shootout. But in this game, they didn't even need shootout. They won it in regulation, and I guess the Sharks are really trying to make a run there in the Western Division.
Well, like you said, it's gonna be a tall order considering St. Louis is going to get their players back soon, and Los Angeles is gunning for that. A lot of teams are gunning for that fourth spot, so I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be a tight race down the wire. But yeah, like I said, I really see St. Louis taking it. Some people might disagree with me, but that's the point of hockey. It's definitely exciting to see down the stretch who takes the spot.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess we can move on to some games that happened in April 1st. The Calgary Flames versus the Vancouver Canucks game was postponed due to COVID protocol. So I guess we can kind of move on to, I guess, some next games. And I guess we could talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the Boston Bruins. Another dominant game by Pittsburgh. They were able to beat Boston 4-1. Zach Aston Reese and Mike Matheson got 2 goals in the second. Marchand got a goal for Boston in the third. Jason Zucker got a goal for Pittsburgh in the third. And Jake Gunsel got a goal for Pittsburgh in the third. So, what are your thoughts on Pittsburgh right now?
Yeah, they just been one of the hottest teams in hockey this season as of late, and Boston has not been hot. I know Pittsburgh, they've won 5 games in a row. They're really trying to make a statement there in the East Division. The top 3 teams in that East Division are all tied at 50 points, and they're 9 points ahead of Boston. So honestly, that division can go either way. The Capitals, the Islanders, or the Penguins could actually take it.
So I guess the Bruins, I don't think they've missed a playoff in a really long time. So hopefully they can kind of keep up that performance.
Honestly, they might be able to make the playoffs just because of how bad Philly's been playing. The Rangers would probably be the only threat to them making that fourth spot, as New Jersey and Buffalo also aren't very good this year. So yeah, or else I think it's either going to be Boston or the Rangers.
Yeah. So at least for Boston, their playoff hopes are still well within possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess we can move on to our next game, the New York Rangers versus the Buffalo Sabres. Very unfortunate for Buffalo. They played pretty well, but they just weren't able to clutch the game out. The Rangers were able to get a goal in overtime to take the game. For Buffalo, Rasmus Asplund in the first, Tage Thompson in the third, and for the New York Rangers, Colin Blackwell fourth in the second, Philip Chidel in the third, and Mika Zibanejad was able to clutch the game out for the New York Rangers in overtime to take a game over the Buffalo Sabres. So very disappointing game for Buffalo. So what do you think that they can do to try to spoil some teams?
I mean, it's good that they're getting points every night since that win. I mean, um, it's not like they're going to make the playoffs. Apparently, there's like a 2% chance that they'll make the playoffs. So it's kind of low, but at the same time, they want to look respectable. They want to put up a fight every night. from now on. So I think definitely with Olmark in goal, that's something they can do. I know Olmark didn't play in this game. I was third goalie to Dustin Tokarski, but yeah, they put up a fight and they really challenged the Rangers. But good win for New York overall.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess for New York, where do you see them going forward?
Like I said, definitely competing for that spot with Boston. It's definitely going to be a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that it's going to be really fun watching for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been a really nice seeing the New York Rangers kind of step up their game this season.
Yeah, they've definitely turned things around, and I really like the direction they're headed.
For sure. And speaking of another New York team, the Islanders had a very dominant performance against the Washington Capitals. They were able to win 8-4, very high scoring game. I never thought I would see something like this before this season started, but now we keep seeing games like this.
Hmm.
So I guess in the first period for the New York Islanders, Jordan Eberle, Matthew Barzal, and Brock Nelson all scored goals in the first. Matthew Barzal had 2 goals in the first. And then in the second, Jordan Eberle scored for New York again. And Casey Chizikis scored for
Sizikis, I think. I think you say
Zizekas.
Sizikis, yeah.
Okay. Casey Zizekas scored for New York in the second as well. And in the third, Josh Bailey scored a goal, and then Matthew Barzal again in the third.
More hat tricks.
Yeah, again. And for Washington, John Carlson scored in the first. Daniel Sprong scored in the first. TJ Oshie and John Carlson again in the second. And no goals for Washington in the third. And what do you think of the Islanders' performance?
Yeah, I mean, winning a game 8-4, that's big. And Washington was alone in first in that East Division. But now, after this loss, Washington's now tied with the New York Islanders and with the Pittsburgh Penguins, as we mentioned. So, yeah, this division's getting down to the wire as we approach the end of the season. Good win for the Islanders, though.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Capitals, they were looking for that first seed. Normally, you want the best seed that you can get in the playoffs, but it looks like it's a three-way race.
Honestly, I feel like that Washington's going to meet Pittsburgh again somehow in the playoffs, like they always do, the whole Crosby and Ovechkin thing. It's pretty much inevitable at this point. So no matter where they finish, whether they face in the first or the second round, I think that might happen. But definitely the Islanders are gonna say, "Oh, we have something to say about that." So definitely those three teams are really strong right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Islanders, they're not underdogs, but like this is again like you don't normally expect the New York Islanders to make this big of a splash. So it would be nice to see how far that they can take this.
I mean, going to the Eastern Conference Finals last year was not too shabby, but at the same time, that was the first playoff run they've had in like pretty much almost 30 years. So yeah, they definitely want to pretty much capitalize and sort of move forward. Use that as sort of a stepping stone to greater things.
Yeah, for sure. You don't want to make it to the East Finals and then you go down in the second round.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely trying to build on things, and yeah. I guess speaking of building on things, Tampa Bay, they just been solid. They won their game on Thursday night, 3-2 over Columbus. Um, I'll let you get to the scoring in a sec, but yeah, Tampa Bay, they were the team that beat the Islanders. That's why I want to transition into this. And yeah, they, I know everyone was like, oh, they lost to Columbus last game. But then again, they played their backup goalie. Vasilevsky was in net for this game. And in my mind, this game was never in doubt. Tampa Bay is just that good of a team this year.
For sure. And I guess for scoring, Braden Point scored in the first for Tampa Bay, and Ross Carlton and Braden Point again for Tampa Bay in the third. And for Columbus, Zach Werenski in the second, Eric Robinson in the third. And I mean, Tampa Bay, they are still Stanley Cup contenders.
Yeah, definitely. They're pretty much the front runner. I know Colorado's been playing very well, but Tampa Bay, they are defending champs, so we got to give them the respect they deserve.
Yeah. I mean, you don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess moving on to Detroit versus the Florida Panthers, Florida was able to clutch this game out in overtime. They beat Detroit by 1 goal, 3-2. Adam Earn was able to score a goal for Detroit in the first, and Anthony Mantha scored a goal in the third. And for Florida, Noel Acciari scored a goal in the first for Florida, and Frank Vetrano scored a goal in the third. And Alex Swenberg was able to clutch the game out for Florida in overtime. And I guess, what are your thoughts on Florida?
Yeah, Florida pretty much just knows how to beat Detroit at this point. And I'm surprised Florida has won 4 games in a row with Alex Barkov being out, with Aaron Ekblad being out. They've just had the injuries pile up and they've still kept winning. There's something different about this Florida team this year, and I think that they might actually have a chance to do something in the playoffs, even with these injuries.
It's kind of surprising that even with these injuries, they've kind of shown. I guess this is kind of like showing how deep Florida is. They don't necessarily need their best players in all the time to kind of carry the team. Even if some guys are out, the rest of the players can kind of step up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess speaking of stepping up, we can move on to Montreal versus Ottawa. They really stepped up this game. A very dominant performance. They were able to beat Ottawa 4-1. Um, for Montreal, Philip Dunal in the first, Paul Byron in the second, Corey Perry and Brandon Gallagher in the third. And for Ottawa, Conan Brown was the only goal scorer for Ottawa. So I guess, what are your thoughts on this win by Montreal?
Yeah, this COVID break has really helped Montreal sort of get back to that team, the team that they were early in the season that was very dominant. And I think that Montreal should be able to get that 4th playoff spot in the North. They're playing really well.
Yeah, they really took a slip. They were second in the North at the beginning of the season, but they should be able to make the playoffs still at least.
And if they're in that 4th spot, it looks like we'll see Toronto versus Montreal in the first round. Definitely something that's very exciting for Canadian hockey fans.
Yeah, it's a really big rivalry up here in the North.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much Toronto and Montreal have been around forever. They were the first 2 Canadian teams in the league, so that's definitely one of the main reasons why they have such a big rivalry.
For sure. And I guess for Ottawa, do you think that they'll be able to go on another run and spoil some more teams?
Pretty much they've owned Calgary this year. They just know how to beat them, and they were beating Montreal earlier in the year, but now Montreal seems to be able to know how to beat Ottawa. So we'll see.
For sure. And I guess moving on to the Carolina Hurricanes versus the Chicago Blackhawks. Very close game. Carolina was able to clutch this game out in the third to win the game, 4-3. For Carolina, in the first we had Vincent Trocek and in the second we had Warren Fiegel and Dominic Kubalik in the second. And in the third we had we had Warren Fiegel again, and we had Jesper Fast. And for Chicago, we had, oh, whoops, I misspoke. So we had Dominic Kubalik for
For
Chicago in
Chicago,
the
yeah.
second, yeah. And Brandon Hagel in the third, and Dylan Strom in the third. So what do you think of Carolina so far?
Pretty much Carolina. They're the second best team in this division. Chicago's really fallen. out a little bit because I know they had the fourth spot pretty secure, but Nashville's sort of taken it over, and Chicago really needed this win tonight. I know we'll get to Nashville's game in a sec, but yeah, they weren't able to get this victory, so it's going to be really tough for Chicago to make the playoffs now.
And what do you think they need to do going forward?
I think just going forward, they need to sort of get that momentum back that they had earlier in the year when they were playing really well.
For sure. And speaking of playing really well, the Dallas Stars beat the Nashville Predators 4-1. Um, I guess Esa Lindell scored in the first. Jason Robertson scored in the second. Jamie Benn and Miro Heiskanen scored in the third. And only Colton Sissons was able to score for Nashville. So I guess if Nashville slips a little bit, this will be a good opportunity for Chicago to take that fourth spot.
Yeah, well, it's going to be tough because this game snapped Nashville's 6-game winning streak. They've just pretty much been on fire for most of these past couple of weeks. Yeah, this was pretty much must win for Dallas to sort of stay in the running as well. Dallas is pretty close, so yeah, there's like about 3 teams there fighting for that spot between Nashville, Dallas, and Chicago. And Nashville was a team that Dallas needed to beat if they wanted to sort of catch up.
Yeah. And I guess for Dallas, they've had a rough season, probably one of the roughest seasons out of any team in this league, but they've done a really good job just hanging in there.
Yeah, for sure. It has been tough, and we'll see if they can kind of go on a run and make things interesting.
Yeah, for sure. It'd be nice to see Dallas in the playoffs again.
Oh yeah, for sure. Once they get into the playoffs, we already know there'll be a tough out in any series.
For sure. And I guess that's pretty much it for the recaps for this week. So I guess we can move on to some pickups.
I think there's one game still going on as we're recording. Vegas and Minnesota are tied
Right.
at the end of the second period. So we won't recap that game, but that's just a score update for while we're recording. But yeah, that game is still going on. So yeah, let's just get into the pickups.
Sure. And I guess for forwards, who are some guys that you think people should pick up?
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's get into some forwards. We just talked about Dallas, so I'll go right into rookie Jason Robertson. I believe I talked about him last week. He's now over 25% rostered in Yahoo leagues, added over 10% in the last week. Jump on this guy. He's pretty much been on fire. I'd say in his past like 8 or 9 games, he's pretty much had close to a point a game. He might have even had more than a point per game. Like he's been so solid. He's averaging around 3 shots a game. He'll throw the occasional hit. He'll get some power play points. His plus minus has been just a little bit in the plus, so he hasn't been too bad. And he's pretty much getting 20 minutes of ice time every night. So for a forward, that's really solid. So definitely Jason Robertson's a must add. Another player I have here is Craig Smith for the Boston Bruins. He's only around 5% rostered, so he's pretty much a deep league pickup at this point. And I know Boston struggled, but he hasn't struggled. He averages around 2 to 3 shots a game. He averages 1 hit a game, and he's pretty much had a point per game in his last 4 or 5 games. So he's been really solid since coming back from the COVID protocol. And yeah, I believe he plays on the second line with guys like Jake DeBrusk and David Krejci, so he is getting ice time. So if you're in a deep league and you need a winger, he might be someone that you can look at. My next pickup is Brandon Tanev. He's around 40% rostered in Yahoo leagues. He just came back from an injury, and he's been really solid. The first game back from an injury, obviously he had a point and he had 5 hits and +1, so really solid. Before he got injured, in his 4 games, he had 3 points. He was +2. He had an average of 5 hits a game, so really solid, and he had at least a shot in every game. So definitely Brandon Tanev, a must add in standard or deep leagues. And then one more forward, I have Victor Arvidsson from Nashville. Like we mentioned, Nashville's hot, so you want to capitalize on the heat of this team and pick up some of their players. He can play both wing positions. He's around 35% rostered in Yahoo leagues, added around 5% in the last week. So people are jumping on this guy. Um, He's been +3 in his past 5 games total. He's had 5 shots on goal twice, and at least one or two in every game. He has at least one hit per game, and he's just been really solid. So Victor Arvidsson is definitely a must add. And then I'll get to you for some forwards.
Yeah, for sure. I've got a few guys that I think people should look at. First, I'll talk about Phil Kessel. He's about 38% rostered right now, plus 10% for the last day. And for this season, he has 14 goals, 12 assists, 68 shots. He is -8, but if you have a lot of guys that are plus minus, they should be able to offset that. He can get multiple categories for you. He gets a lot of shots. He gets some goals. He even gets power play points as well. And he does get some assists. He gets plenty of ice time, so you don't have to worry about him being on the bench too much. So if you're in a shallow league, you should definitely take a look at him. And I guess we can talk about Jared McCann, second for the Pittsburgh Penguins. For the season, he has 8 goals, 8 assists, 46 shots, and he's plus 13. So that's very good, especially if you need a guy who gets really good plus minus, as he is on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Um, like I said, he can get a lot of goals and assists. He's really valuable in plus minus, gets a lot of shots. He's 19% rostered, so if you're in a deep league, he's a player that you should definitely take a look at, especially considering he's eligible for both center and left wing. And I guess moving on to Jonas Donskoy for the Colorado Avalanche. He has had a really big uptick in terms of ownership. He's 48% rostered right now, plus 28% for the last day. Um, for the season, he has 15 goals, 13 assists, 14 plus minus, and 50 shots on goal. For the Arizona game, he had 3 goals and he had one power play point, 6 shots, 1 assist, and he was +3. So, um, very dominant performance by Donskoy. He's eligible for both left wing and right wing. And the Colorado Avalanche, they're a crazy team right now with a very high-powered offense. So if you're in a shallow league, you should definitely pick him up before he's over 50% owned and he's no longer available in most waivers. And I guess the last guy that I have is Eli Tolvanen. For the season, he has 9 goals, 9 assists, 44 shots. He is -3, so uh, it's not the worst, especially if you have a lot of guys who are plus minus. Um, for the Dallas game, he had 2 shots on goal and 2 hits, but for the other Dallas game, he had one in every category. So he's another player that can get multiple categories for you. So if you're in a shallow league, you should definitely take a look at him, especially as he is eligible for left wing and right wing. And so those are all our forwards. So I guess moving on to defense, what are some pickups that you would recommend for people?
Yeah, so for defense pickups, I'm going to talk about Radko Gudas again because people are not picking up this guy. He's still only around 40% rostered in Yahoo leagues. This guy needs to be 50 plus. So let's do hashtag Gudas50. Get this guy up. He's our new 50 percent guy for hockey. This guy just does not stop getting hits. In his game on Thursday against Detroit, this guy had 7 hits. You need to stop sleeping on this guy if you play in a league that counts hits. You got to pick him up. He's just been so solid. He has at least a shot in pretty much every game. Sometimes he'll have 2 or more shots per game. So if you need shots, you need hits from defense, add this guy up. Hashtag Gudis50. And then here I have Nick Leddy. He's close to 50% rostered from the New York Islanders. He's just been really solid overall. This season, 1 goal, 24 assists, +2, 9 power play points, 47 shots, and 31 hits. So this guy chips in every category. He's pretty much a must add for the defense position. And then just one more I have here. I mentioned last week, Ty Smith, rookie for the New Jersey Devils. He's around 20% roster in Yahoo League, so maybe more of a deep league pickup. He's definitely been pretty solid. He pretty much I'd say in his past 6 games, he's pretty much had like 5 points. He's pretty much been like +3 or 4. He's had a power play point here or there, usually at least one shot per game, and he'll throw in a hit here or there. So definitely he'll chip in for you where you need it. So he's pretty much a must add for deep leagues, and definitely in shallow leagues. If you have an injured defenseman, you can take a look at him. So those are my defense picks.
For sure. And like we say, Gudis on the label puts wins on the table.
That's it, man. Hashtag good as 50.
Gudis 50. And I guess I've got a couple of guys that I think people should also take a look at. For example, Ryan Graves. He's had 11 assists, 70 shots, and he's +11 for the season. Um, he gets a lot of hits. He gets a lot of shots. Gets a good amount of assists. He gets a lot of ice time, and he is on Colorado, so you don't have to worry about plus minus. So if you need somebody who can get plus minus consistently for you, this is a defenseman that you can count on. He's about 35% rostered right now, so he's more of a shallow league pick, but definitely pick him up. And I guess moving on to Justin Hall for the Toronto Maple Leafs. For the season, he has 2 goals, 12 assists, 31 shots, +7. He can get a lot of hits for you, a lot of shots, a lot of assists. He is on Toronto, so his plus minus is going to be really good. He gets a lot of ice time. His game against Winnipeg, he had 25 minutes, so that's very good. And he is 8% rostered, so if you're in a deep league, you should definitely take a look at Justin Hall. And I guess my last guy would be Mario Ferrero. For the season, he has 1 goal, 12 assists, 45 shots. He is -6 because he is on San Jose, but he does get a lot of hits, a lot of shots. He's a really good defenseman, even with his plus minus. So if you're in a deep league and you see him, you should definitely take a look at him. And those are some guys I have for defense. And I guess we can move on to goalie. Pretty thin this week, but who are some guys you think you should take a look at?
Yeah, just before I mention my goalie, I wanted to say that we are going to be posting all of our pickups on our Twitter and Instagram. So definitely go check us out at Podcast. If you need the list of the pickups for both basketball and hockey, and then when football starts, we'll definitely have those on the Twitter and on the Instagram, whether it's the same day of the podcast or the day after. So definitely go check that out. For goalies, I have Chris Dreger from Florida. He does play the backup role, but usually when he does play, he pretty much wins almost every game. And he's been allowing 2 goals or less in his last 2 starts, but most starts this season. His rank is 67. He's really solid. He's close to 50% rostered, so definitely take a look at him. His season stats, he's got 9 wins. He's got a goals against average of 2.19 and a save percentage of 0.927, so really solid stats. Um, so yeah, he'll definitely contribute in almost every category for you. So I had Chris Dreger.
For sure. And for me, I have Martin Jones for San Jose again. Um, he's has 12 wins for the season, which is really good considering he's on San Jose. His goal gives average is 3.23, and his save percent is 89.8%. So, very decent. Against Minnesota, they were actually able to get the win 2 times, and his save percent was really good. His goal against average was really good in those 2 games. So if they keep starting Martin Jones, definitely take a look at him. And those are all the guys that we have for pickups this week. So I guess we can move on to some news around the league. And I guess we can kind of talk a little bit about Connor McDavid and Nathan MacKinnon both getting some heavy fines. Nathan MacKinnon was fined 5,000 for throwing the Garland's helmet at him. So basically pulling a Miles Garrett in the NHL, hitting someone with their own helmet. And Nathan McKinnon also got a $5,000 fine. This was US dollars as well. So this is a pretty steep for Connor McDavid as he is playing in Edmonton. And he apparently elbowed Jesperi Kotkaniemi. So again, a very heavy fine for doing that. I mean, obviously, we don't want dirty hits like this in the game, but at the same time, like we said last week, the refs they haven't been seeing everything. They don't necessarily protect their players properly, especially their star players this season. And again, violence is generally looked down upon, but the players do, for some reason, they do see it kind of as a necessary evil in the league, as long as refs are, I guess, they're not, as long as refs aren't seeing everything, players still feel like they have to kind of protect themselves. So I guess I was just wondering about your thoughts on this.
Yeah, it really looks like that both fines were deserved. Um, I mean, probably both of those actions were done out of frustration, and then obviously we've talked about this before, how fighting is crucial to the game, or else if they try and take fighting out of the game, a lot more of these cheap shots will happen, and there won't be any repercussions for them. So this also generates another discussion about star players having to defend themselves. These are two of the top players in the league that receive these fines for these incidents. If there were players on the team sort of looking out for these players, chances are that they would have stayed out of all of these fights and other players would have taken that role. So, yeah, those are some interesting discussions. But yeah, I guess overall, these two players received their fines, and hopefully, they'll be a lot cleaner in the coming games.
Yeah, for sure. It would be a shame to like see them get suspended just because they got frustrated. I know people give these guys a lot of cheap shots as well because they are really good players, but at the same time, if you keep doing cheap shots yourself, what's going to happen is the refs are going to see you do it. They not might not necessarily see the other guy, so you're the one who's going to get burned for it. So it's
Exactly.
very frustrating to get cheap shotted, especially you're a star player, you're really good. They don't know how to defend you, so they're going to give you lots of cheap shots, but try to keep your head cool as much as you can. And hopefully the refs call things as they see it.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. We talked about the refereeing last week. So hopefully the refs can definitely set a standard, be consistent, and then hopefully these star players will have other players on their team that are willing to sort of stand up and defend them and to sort of drop the gloves if it's necessary. If a cheap shot is taken on one of the star members of their team, definitely stand in and stand up for your teammates.
Yeah, for sure. This was a standard thing, especially back in the old school days of the NHL. There were a lot of enforcers that if they saw someone getting cheap shotted, you could expect a fight to happen like right then and there. The enforcer, if especially once they see that, they're not gonna let that fly. So um, this might be kind of it might see like kind of like a small resurgence. It's not gonna be back like how it was back then, but um, there might be more enforcers. I guess going forward, at least for like maybe a couple of seasons until I guess there's another crackdown or something.
Yeah, I really hope that the league does keep the game open to fighting because it definitely does crack down on all the cheap shots. Definitely when you eliminate fighting, a lot more of these cheap shots happen. So, yeah, good on the league for finding these two players, and hopefully, some other guys will stand up for them in the future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when if we want kind of like a clean skill based NHL, there's going to be a lot to it's gonna take a lot for that to happen, but I think it is doable.
Yeah, for sure, I can agree.
Yeah, and I guess we can move on to some general talk. I guess what are your thoughts? We can start, I guess, with the Central Division. What are your thoughts on the Central Division?
Yeah, just looking at the Central Division right now, this is pretty much Tampa Bay's division to lose. They're playing really solid. I know Florida has caught up to them with their 4 wins in a row, both tied at 52 points. Then you got Carolina there with 51. And then we were talking about that fourth spot. You actually have Nashville, Chicago, Columbus, and Dallas all in this sort of area now where they can sort of try and take the spot. I know Dallas has played a few less games, so they definitely have a good chance of catching up. But yeah, it's definitely going to be really close. And then as for Detroit, we know that they're in last place, and they're definitely going to try and play spoiler in the coming weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And this is probably the division that's, I guess, in terms of the fourth spot, almost anyone can make it.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Pretty much everyone except for Detroit.
Yeah. And I guess moving on to the West,
Yeah.
um, I guess Anaheim also, there's probably spoiled time for them. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this division is pretty much shaped up in the same way as the Central. The top three teams are pretty solid with Colorado, Vegas, and Minnesota. And then you got St. Louis, Arizona, LA, and San Jose battling for that fourth spot. So um, it's looking pretty much the same as the Central. That fourth spot is sort of the target spot.
Yeah, for sure. Do you think that St. Louis will be able to kind of hold on to the fourth spot?
I think if they get their injured players back, then they can. But if not, I could actually see it slipping away from St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure. Who do you think would be most likely kind of catching up and giving St. Louis a big scare?
Okay, so before that game against the Avalanche, the Arizona Coyotes were playing really well. So if they can definitely improve on their play, I could definitely see them getting in because they were a playoff team last year.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the East, what are your thoughts on the East?
Yeah, we talked about the three teams tied there with 50 points in first place. We have Washington, the Islanders, and Pittsburgh. And then in that fourth spot, we have Boston. And then Philadelphia is there in fifth. And then the Rangers are in sixth. Both teams are pretty close to Boston. Then you have New Jersey and Buffalo there at the bottom. So definitely, if we're talking that division, I personally think the Rangers have the best chance at catching Boston. But if Philadelphia can turn it around, they definitely have a chance as they're not too far.
Yeah, for sure. It's been looking very competitive, even for the East, which is surprising.
Yeah, I knew this division was going to be pretty competitive. But yeah, it looks like it might come down to the wire for that fourth spot.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the North, what are your thoughts on the North?
I think the four teams are pretty much set in stone at this point, with Montreal really cementing themselves as that fourth team. You got Toronto in first, 49 points, Winnipeg in second, 46 points, Edmonton in third, 45, and Montreal in fourth with 41. Calgary and Vancouver both have 35 points, but they've played four more games than Montreal. So Montreal definitely has games in hand to pretty much pat their lead on that fourth spot. And then, of course, Ottawa's there in last place trying to play spoilers. So, yeah, I think those top four teams are set. It just depends on the actual order. But in terms of the four teams that will make the playoffs, it'll be those four in my mind.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the bottom three teams, I know Calgary and Vancouver, they're going to do their best, but it's going to be a really tall order. For Ottawa, it's just spoiler time.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right. And I guess that is it for the general talk. So we'll move on to some previews. And I guess we can start with the Washington Capitals versus the New Jersey Devils. I guess we can expect dominant performance from Washington.
Yeah, they're probably upset with how this Islanders game went down. I could definitely see a bounce back for them. We don't have the odds yet, but I just see Washington winning this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to the Leafs versus the Jets, do you think the Jets will be able to turn it up against the Leafs?
This game could go either way, actually. Yeah, I just looking at it, it's going to be very tough for the Leafs to beat this Jets team back to back. I know it is possible, but Winnipeg, they have been playing good before that first game against Toronto. So for the Leafs to beat them twice, it is going to be tough. Who I like in this game, I'm going to be cheering for Toronto, but in terms of who I think is going to win, it's going to just depend on, I guess, who's starting in net for both teams. And I guess I'm pretty much split down the middle in this game. You could go either way on this.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess moving on to another game that could possibly go either way. Alberta's having another battle. I've
Mhm.
kind of lost count to which battle of Alberta this is. It might be like round 4 or 5 or something. Who do you think takes this?
Oh, Edmonton's been the better team, and they're at home. I think they take this.
For sure. And I guess moving on to St. Louis Blues versus the Colorado Avalanche. Very tall order for the Blues. A lot of their best players are injured. Colorado's been hot. They have a very high-powered offense. Their goalie's worst nightmare this season. Do you think St. Louis has a chance at all?
They have a chance, but I don't think they're going to win. I think Colorado's going to win this.
For sure. And moving on to Arizona Coyotes versus the Anaheim Ducks. I guess we can expect Arizona to play pretty dominantly this game.
Yeah, you just spoke my mind. This is going to be a bounce back game for Arizona. They got blown last game. It's not going to happen again. They should win this game.
For sure. And moving on to San Jose versus the LA Kings, a must-win game for both teams. But who do you think will actually take the win?
I think the Sharks have been pretty hot lately, so I might lean with them, but the Kings have also been good. This game could go either way, but I guess I might lean with the Sharks just because like I've been fading them, but they've been winning, so I'm not gonna fade them. I think we can take the Sharks here.
Sounds good. Looks like the Sharks have found their footing.
Yeah, let's see if they can definitely gain some ground on St. Louis.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess that will be good for the preview portion of the podcast. So I guess we can kind of move on to the pools. And how's everyone doing?
Oh yeah, just taking a look at the pool. I've now fallen 12 points behind our injury expert, Victoria. She is in first place as we speak. So we might end up doing some sort of either injury analysis, playoff bracket type thing with her. We'll definitely have to iron out the details as she is very busy. She has a Toronto Argonauts internship coming up. She has some other big things going on in terms of school and work. So we definitely will have to work something out if she does win this. I'm hoping that my injured players come back and I'm able to sort of win, like come back and win it. But it is going to be tough as her team is playing really well.
Yeah, for sure. We could probably ask her for some tips on, I guess, injury picks and what to expect from them.
I guess she was able to sort of I guess weather the storm of injuries, being the injury expert and all.
Yeah, I mean, that's her specialty. So that you would expect that from her.
Yeah, I'll give her credit for that for sure.
Yeah. And I guess that about wraps it up for this week of the Everything NHL hockey segment of the Fantasy Fanatics podcast. If you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe, hit the bell so you can see us every week. We're on Twitter, so if you want some pickups, you want to see who's gonna win, you should definitely follow us there. If you listen to a lot of podcasts, we're on Apple Music, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Spotify. So if you want to listen to something while you drive, while you work, so definitely follow us, and you'll be able to keep up with your pickups every week. And tune in next week for, I guess, some more recaps, some more pickups, more general talk, some more previews. And don't forget to add Radko Gudis to your team,
Hashtag Gudis50.
Gudis50. And if you have Twitter, put hashtag Gudis50 on your Twitter.
Yeah, tweet us back. Hashtag Gudis50.
All right, that about wraps it up for this week.